We're live.
Hello again, and welcome to the Dumb and Dumber Show. I'm Dumb.
Where's the Dumb and Dumber coming from? We're the Inglorious Pastords.
That's our season 4 shtick.
We didn't talk about that.
That's because you're dumber.
Yes.
Since when do we talk about it ahead of time?
Well, we're not.
The whole idea is this is an impromptu show. It's sort of an improv podcast.
I'm just letting people know we've not renamed our podcast Dumb and Dumber, even though you seem to have.
Welcome to Inglorious Pastords. I'm Dumb.
And I'm Roger.
And I'm Roger. See, that was smart. That was good. You're smarter.
You can't suck me into that.
Yes. No, I can't. We're glad to be here today, aren't we, Raj?
Yes. I enjoyed this. I've said it. This is a highlight for me.
Should we break into a song? This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it.
We already have limited listenership. We don't need to be killing it with songs.
Remember that song? This is the day that the Lord hath made. Whoa, Roger didn't jump in. He normally jumps. He just left me hanging out there.
No, a funner song would be that Cake song, Short Skirt, Long Jacket.
Yes, we were doing that one this morning.
This morning.
She's changing her name from Kitty to Karen. She's trading her MG for a white Chrysler LeBaron. Look it up. The song's hilarious. It's very fun.
Cake.
No, that's the name of the group.
The group, yes.
Cake.
Yeah.
Roger put me onto that. Roger listens widely.
Yes.
Hey, that's an interesting difference today. So I read pretty widely, maybe more widely than you, but you listen to music far more widely than I do.
That probably is true.
I've got worship music or classic rock. That's really my only two genres.
Yep. No, and I listen. In fact, now you talk about this fun mix, but Barry Gibb has just come out with...
Oh, no, you did not say Barry Gibb. What is with you and the Bee Gees?
No, but he came out with this new collaborative album, Greenfields, I think it is. But he does these classic Bee Gees songs with various country artists. So he does a song with Dolly Parton.
Really?
I think Alison Krauss, these other... So
that's very interesting.
It's very, very interesting. But it's true. And part of that is, got 4 kids, and my kids will put me onto songs, or they'll put me onto groups. This great group I was telling you about this morning, Walk Off the Earth, just as just great cover band, super creative. But my playlist, even my Spotify playlist, is this comically diverse. I mean, there's hip hop and country and soft rock and hard rock and some Christian thrown in all different,
some Christians sprinkled in there.
Like
sprinkles. It's like salt. That's how I like that, a little salt.
She's changing her name
from Kitty to
Karen.
Karen. She's trading her MG for a white Chrysler LeBaron. So, guess what I got in the mail yesterday?
A check. You got a massive check in the mail.
No, I got a book, Roger.
I got a check in the mail yesterday.
Oh, wait. No,
Let's talk about what I got in the mail.
I was listening to Andy Stanley do a talk about, wealth and what should the wealthy do, and those who are rich in this world should be generous and willing to share. And he said, but you may be thinking, I don't know. I don't think I'm rich. He said, if you've ever got an Amazon package at your house and you didn't know what was in it, you're rich. And I thought, he is so practical. That's just a great way of knowing. So when this Amazon package showed up at first, I'm like, I don't remember what that is. I must be rich. It sort of dawned on me, I'm rich. But it was a book, and I'm very excited about it. I read the first 3 parts. He doesn't really break it into chapters. It's Matthew McConaughey, the actor, who wrote a book called Greenlights. And what I was fascinated by, I read a little piece of it, sort of his memoir at 50, what he's learned about life and love and spirituality. It's fascinating. He said, I like preachers, but this is not a book to preach at you. It's an interesting, so I wanted to get his take, because in some ways I think he represents a lot of people in our, whatever term you want to use, a post-gen world, fascinating. But I love the idea of green lights. It's something I keep thinking about. For 23 years, I was a pastor of a church, and largely, not entirely, but largely the church was about come to this small group, come to this church building, come to this thing.
Okay.
That we established. And it just reminded me, and it was a message I did years ago. This is back in Cove Church days, but a message called Go. And we were doing a 4-week series called Green. And I talked to John Tanner, and I'm like, I want to do this message on go, because it's a green light. A green light means go. So he argues, Matthew McConaughey argues in his book, well, green lights, we all like green lights. Green lights means go. Yeah. Continue. You don't have to stop. He said, and he said, in a good traffic system, the lights are timed in such a way that if you make one green light, you can keep making green lights. So you're not stopping. The other side of that is, I've learned this in my world. I can miss every light on the way to my office, every single one, even if it's not possible.
Right.
But once you get on that run, you just can't stop it. Anyway.
And you and I track that kind of thing.
Oh, way ahead of time. Roger and I are those people, and Marlene doesn't even understand it. But I'm 2 miles ahead from the intersection. I know how many people are in each lane, how many are in the turn lane.
And I know the light sequence. I know if the 4 lanes, which goes next. So if this lane is going, I know when our light's going to go green.
And do you know when you're going to get skipped? I've learned at certain intersections, I'll get skipped unless I make the metal tracking before this thing starts. These things stop coming the other way. And the other way, it already triggers. Nope, no one's in that lane. So these ones will go. And then I'm like, oh, shit, I got to hit through an entire cycle.
I know the trigger lights, where to trigger them. I'm watching down the road, which can get me in trouble because the only ticket I've had in the last 25 years was I didn't come to a complete stop because I was looking down and I saw a light that was green. It's one of those lights where you miss that, you wait a long time. And so I was coming up to a stop sign, but I wanted to get to that green light. So I didn't make a complete stop, pulled out to make that green light and got pulled over. So anyway, yes,
it's called a California roll.
The Inglorious Pastords are...
Or it's called a rolling stop.
Yes.
And
who knows?
Which is not a stop at all.
And I don't know how many people get tickets for that. I just know that when I went to the traffic class, the guy said, I'm assuming all of you are here for speeding. And everyone, and then he's like looking at me and I didn't come to a complete stop. It was almost like
you got a ticket for that?
They ticket that?
Yeah.
It must have been a severe one. I don't know. So I severely, apparently, I don't know.
Roger pulled into traffic 70 miles an hour. He was going 85, so you did slow down, which is great.
Well, I think that other accident it caused would have happened anyway.
There's that. But I got to thinking about, and I'm looking forward to reading the book more.
Okay.
Because I want to learn particularly more about his spiritual journey. Which I'm wondering how indicative that is of spiritual journeys of a lot of people that grew up in a different world than I did.
And I'm like that. I love to get diverse stories. People not from my background at all. How did they grow up? How did they experience the world?
Yes.
And I would recommend, again, sometimes we can cut ourselves off to that, but listening to people whose backgrounds are very different.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and their perspective is very different.
And you're going to learn. And here's a funny thing. I can guarantee you, God's going to teach you something, even if it's someone that, I'm not sure. I get a little concerned about that, whatever. It's just, God loves to surprise you that way. Okay, that's just a side thing. Go on.
It's a side thing. But, so this whole idea of green lights and go, and the word of Jesus to go into the world, and I share with you a little bit of this week, because we're not pastors right now in a local church per se. I feel like I'd gotten this article from Richard Rohr, one of his newsletters, about being outside the camp. And he talked about the interesting thing about what the organization that he leads. He said, we're kind of outside the camp. He talked about Moses would go outside the camp to hear a word from the Lord, because inside the camp, there was so much noise and there was tension and there was all that stuff. And he would go outside the camp to get this word from the Lord. He said, that's one of the ways that he's able to do that, because he's not attached to any denomination. He's not attached to any political party or system. He said, we're just not hampered. We can get, so he said, living, what did he say, on the edge of the outside.
Okay.
But I feel like we're in an interesting time, an important time, because we're a little outside the norms. And there's things that I'm learning, that I'm watching, but as I'm looking back on my life, when I think of Greenlight, when I think of there was places where I was more going, one of them was Renown. 2006, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 4 years. We were going to a bar or a brewing company, and we're sort of doing church. So it wasn't a church.
And we was who? We was
me and John Williams and Chris Vogelsong.
Okay. And
then we would invite young adults, and it sprung from this reality that more and more young adults were not going to church. And
okay.
And I'm becoming more struck with the fact that that's not getting any better. There's not more and more people that are going to church now. But I realized we were going, and even the idea of, and it started, Roger, in some ways it started with, I looked up last week to see if it was still there, Church in a Bar that we helped start in Denver, Colorado, with Mike Shepard.
Okay.
And there were some old articles from the Out West magazine, which is an urban living magazine in Denver. They'd done a thing on Church in the Bar. Fascinated by this idea of Church in the Bar, where people could hoist a pint of beer, but also talk about Jesus or talk about spiritual things. But anyway, I look back at that season. I'm like, that was a season for me of going. We weren't asking people to come to a church. Now, there was a place that we were, but it was more a place that people would go to. Anyway, I realized, in those days, we never had any problem getting people to stay for takedown after the event. Well, it's sometimes when you have events, there's people that love to do setup and help with that, but no one wants to do takedown. But it was free beer.
I was wondering if that was going to be
right. So all these young adults are like, yeah, we'll do takedown. We'll stay indefinitely. Never had a problem with takedown in those days. And then I'm wondering, it's making me wonder, all right, so where am I going right now? In other words, there's a degree to which, even in my counseling ministry, people are coming to me. And I realize there's certainly a place for that. But I'm just wondering now, where are the green lights in my life right now at age 57 next week? Where God's calling me, inviting me to go, or where do I need to be going? Where do we need to be going to where we're with people in normal places or places that they already are, versus saying, come to this church building that's unusual to you, right, that may not even make sense to you. Is that recording? That looks bad. That just does not look good.
No, that's what my computer just does every now and then, just shuts down. This is that thing I've been telling you about, is my
awesome.
We're talking about my laptop, which was recording.
It's not now.
Part of our podcast.
Anytime you see a screen that says,
nope,
this has gone horribly wrong.
Nope, that's just what my computer does sometimes. Just
do you want to start
totally out of the blue?
Do you want to start in safe mode? That means it's bad. Just gonna let you know. So that's some of the stuff I wanted to talk about today. Where does the church need to be going?
Well, I'll say, because you kind of moved quickly past the counseling.
That's my job. I throw things out there and then you come back.
Right. Well, my pushback on that would be, there's a point where you put yourself out there. I want to serve people who are in need of someone to talk things out.
Yeah.
Because you're a great listener, and you love Jesus, and you have this gift of bringing those things together, listening to people well, and then maybe there's a word that or something that you've learned from your own experience that God has taught you through a mistake or
usually mistakes.
Yes, good. He's done a lot of that work with you. But I recall that when you stepped out into that, so I think I get what you're saying. Okay, people are coming to you now. They're coming, but it's because you took a step toward people. And what I love is,
that's a good word.
What I love it is, it's not just long-term Christians coming to you.
No,
you have all kinds of people, and I think Jesus smiles at that. I mean, I think
a fair number of agnostic. A couple of atheists, but now the other thing that's more go about even this office that we're in. This is my office where I do counseling. This is a neutral facility of people.
Yes,
it's an office downtown. So even if you did counseling in a church office, it was still harder for people.
Right,
you're still coming into an environment that feels, is this sacred? Do I fit? Can I talk? Can I say certain things?
Right.
People cuss much more frequently and openly and easily in here.
Okay.
They just do.
Yep.
Whereas if they were in the church office, they're like, oh, I can't.
Yep.
I probably can't say
Right.
that. So
and they're not going to be as natural. They're not right.
You're helping me understand this. Even using this space is more of going. It's a common space. It's a
Right.
neutral space.
Right. Even though there's some element of coming involved, because I do believe that one element, for instance, even of going, could be inviting someone into your home. Now I realize COVID realities
Right.
There's a care we have to take with that, and whether that's sitting outside with people or and the appropriate sensitivity and care for other people.
Right.
But inviting someone into your home can be a way of going. And because
I love that.
Right. So Jesus, even he's going to have a party with Matthew and the gang, but we're going to invite people in. I think the point is,
and
you're being intentional about moving toward people and not simply waiting till you interact with them.
Yeah.
Because I realize this is a thing that I've had to wrestle with, where, when people come to me, I can share something, or but I can get really careless. This is where I think Jesus would pushes me, just like he pushed his early followers, it's not about you. It's not about your comfort. It's not about your comfort. And
did you say that a second time intentionally?
I think I did.
Okay.
And I was tempted to say it a third.
I just thought you might be senile.
So
I forgot I said that thing that I literally just said.
So I wouldn't rule that out. The senility is approaching. So I do think one way, though, of being intentional is inviting people to something, or even going, let's meet somewhere.
Yeah.
But are we being intentional, moving towards people? And particularly, this is moving towards people that are not like you, moving people whose stories or backstories, Matthew McConaughey, whoever, it's that whole idea of I'm moving because there's this part of us, and Jesus' disciples didn't realize they were always just moving in certain circles.
Yeah.
There were certain comfort. They didn't realize they've got comfort zones.
No, it's why Jesus said, we must go through Samaria. And they're like, no, we mustn't, Jesus. Right. In fact, the normal is we're going to go around.
Sure.
We'll do a big loop around. I realize as the crow flies, Samaria is quicker, but we mustn't go there, Jesus. Right. He said we must go. I wonder if this would work. Jesus' thing with Zacchaeus. Have you ever thought about just going over to someone, hey, let's go to your house and eat? I mean, it sounds like you're mooching.
Right.
But the brilliance of it is, in Zacchaeus' case, someone coming to your house was the idea of fellowshipping with them, being open to them, welcoming them. So Zacchaeus is the worst of the worst. He's not just a tax collector. He's like a chief tax collector, whatever that looks like in our culture. It's not a good thing.
Right.
And Jesus says, we're going to go to your space.
Right.
We're going to be in, it's important that I go to be in your space. So he allows this person who's hated by the religious folks and by the nationalists of his day, and says it's
everyone,
pretty much everyone except for a few Romans.
Right.
Although
a few,
a lot of the Romans probably weren't that fond of him either.
Right, exactly.
But it's important that I go to be in your house and let you host me. I don't know. It's just I don't know that I've ever done that. I've gone to other people's houses when invited, but I don't know that I've ever gone and said, hey, it's important that I go to your house tonight. What are we eating?
I think where it can work, because I think there are people you encounter at certain places where they would never invite you because they're
not sure you would say yes.
You would come.
Yeah.
And where you sense,
yes.
see, there's where it can work is, and where we can think outside the box is someone who would just say, that person would never want to come, where you could even say, how would you feel? Would you mind if my wife and I came over to your place sometime?
Yeah. So this happened last year. Now the year before last, because we couldn't do it. When my neighbor was talking about this Halloween party, the costume party that he was doing. Halloween parties are part of my shtick with just getting to know people or new people in particular.
Right.
But this was a neighbor that was just doing a Halloween party. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. He's like, well, you can come anytime. We're literally right next door.
Right.
And it was great because I'm interacting with people that I would never normally see, meet, interact with.
Oh, and I've said it before, and if someone outside the church sort of ever invites you to a party, to something, I think it's almost a sin not to go.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting this invitation.
You cancel things if you have to
right.
make that a yes.
No, I've had this happen several times, and we have to push back sometimes, because Jesus went to taboo parties. He went to places, even if you think about Zacchaeus' home, this was something no one was going to, no decent, honorable Jew was going to go to the home of a tax collector. So even when I think about, and
Roger,
when we were growing up, for instance, the thought that you'd go to meet someone at a bar was just, that was absolutely.
I just realized the import that didn't happen because of the faith of the centurion, but the centurion talks about his servant that's sick, and Jesus says, "I'll go to your," just like Jesus got all excited, "I'll go to your space." Everyone's like, "No, you can't go to a Roman centurion's house." Jesus goes, "No, I'll go to your place." And the centurion was like, "No, you don't have to do that. You're powerful enough to do it from here." Right. And Jesus was like, I've never seen faith like this in Israel. But I just thought about the reality. Jesus was eager to go to his space, which was not the thing to do.
Well, so now we start adding up the eager to go be with Samaritans. We've talked about it before. Didn't just go to Samaria, stayed several days.
Stayed there.
Stayed uncomfortably long.
So the disciples, they said, all right, Jesus is determined to go through Samaria. They put on their running shoes. We're going to make this as quick as we can. This is called the beeline section of our gospel tour. We're just going to get through this bad boy. And Jesus, stop. This is great. No, we're going to spend here a couple of days. So to be clear, we're not going to call down fire from heaven. We're going to hang out here a few days. Yes, because I didn't come to judge them. I came to save it.
I want them to be in the kingdom. So
isn't that beautiful?
He pushes toward. So you're right, Roman centurion. So again, this is, even if you think about.
Yeah.
Now I would say, because it's a bit. You think about in our history where communists have gone in and taken over a country.
Yep.